expect the best from Allah. In other words, to be very hopeful of a response. And this shows the iman that one has. Suppose one of you were to go to his brother or his father in a time of extreme distress. Do you not think that they will respond to you? In fact, you will be semi-sure. Suppose you're out of a job and you don't have any money. You will go to your brother or your father or your relative and say, look, I need to borrow this much money, or I need this help. And you know in your heart that they will give it to you. You are sure of a response. Should this feeling not be even more strong for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Should your iman and tawakkul and mahabba and love be even more stronger for Allah, who created you and created your father and mother as well, and your relatives as well, who gave you all that you have? This is a sign of one's iman, of one's mahabba, of one's taqwa and khushu'. That is why the Prophet ﷺ said, and we quoted this hadith before, make dua while you have yaqeen, وَأَنْتُمْ مُوقِنُونَ, while you have yaqeen that Allah will respond to you. This is your state of mind. You should be certain Allah will respond to me. Because this is a sign of iman and taqwa. When you don't have this certainty, then this shows that you do not have that iman, that mahabba, that love that you should have. أُدْعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَنْتُمْ مُوقِنُونَ بِالْإِجَابَةِ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says many times in the Quran, and in the ayah that we quoted before, your Lord has said, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Your Lord has said, make dua to me, I will respond to you. I will respond to your dua. Likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ نَادَانَا نُوحٌ فَلَنِعْمَ الْمُجِيبُونَ. Nuh called out to us, and we are the best of those who respond. Nuh made dua, and we are the best of those who respond. So this too is of the etiquette of dua, that we have certainty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to the dua. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, that Allah says, I am at the servant and what he thinks of me. In other words, I'll rephrase the hadith in modern English. I will do as the servant thinks I will do. I will do the way the servant expects me to do. This is the rough translation of the hadith. When the servant thinks good of me, I will do good to him. And when he thinks evil of me, I will do evil to him. When he thinks he's going to make dua and I will not respond to him, then I will not respond to him. Because he does not have that love for me. But when he makes dua, thinking that I will respond, then I will not let him go astray. I will not let that dua go. This is a hadith Qudsi that Allah says, I will do as my servant thinks I will do of him. My treatment with him will be the way that he thinks it will be. So when we make dua, we should have yaqeen, full certainty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will respond to us. Yet another etiquette of dua is that we should have humility and humbleness and khushu', fear, all of this together. In other words, our souls should be broken in front of Allah, not be arrogant. We should lower ourselves, have this humility in us. As Allah says in the Quran, أُدْعُوا رَبَّكُمْ تَضَرُّعًا وَخُفْيًا. Make dua to your Lord in humility and softly. Humility, تَضَرُّعًا وَخُفْيًا. Allah does not like those who transgress. So of the etiquettes of dua is khushu', is humility. And this too is the etiquettes of salah as well. Another etiquette of dua, and this is unfortunately many of us don't practice, is to complain to Allah only. What do I mean to complain? This type of complaint is the complaint that you want sympathy from someone. You're in a problem. Who do you want sympathy from? You want sympathy from Allah. Not the complaint that why did you do this, why did you do that? No. The type of complaint where someone, it happens all the time. Oh, I was in a big problem yesterday, or I was sick yesterday or something. And then someone says, oh, tell me about it. In other words, they're giving you their sympathy, and that sympathy makes you feel good. And this is human nature. And it's not haram or shirk the way that this is. But the perfection of one's iman is that you only seek sympathy from Allah. You don't seek sympathy from the creation. And this is very, very difficult. In fact, some of the scholars of the past, they would not even tell people they were sick. They would not even tell people that some affliction happened to them, because they did not want the sympathy of other people. We find this, for example, in Yaqub alayhi salam, when his son Yusuf was taken away, and Binyamin was kept in Egypt, and his oldest son as well was exiled in Egypt. 3 of his children were away. He called out to Allah, and then he said, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I only complain, ashku, shakwa, I only complain of my grief and sorrow to Allah. I'm not complaining to you. When the other children made fun of him, he said, I'm not complaining to you. I don't want your sympathy. I'm only complaining. What type of complaint? Realize, don't say that complaint doesn't mean, oh Allah, why did you do this? This is not complaint, this is kufr. You never ask Allah why. You accept it. But the complaint, the type that you want sympathy, that type of complaint, this complaint should only be done to Allah. Like Ayyub alayhi salam. Ayyub, the one who Allah tested. Hardly any person, any prophet was tested like Ayyub was tested. If you read his story, where his whole family was taken away and killed. All of his children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to be taken away. All of his wealth and power and fame. And he became a leper. And he was thrown out of society, living all alone. And he was a prophet of Allah. Extreme hardships. And yet, what does he say? Rabbi inni massani ad-dur. Oh Allah, some affliction has touched me. This is all he said. Some affliction has touched me. Wa anta arhamur rahimin. And you are the arhamur rahimin. You know my situation. Have rahmah on me. He didn't even say to lift him up from the situation. All he said, oh Allah, some affliction has touched me, and you are the arhamur rahimin. He left it at that. You know what I want. Look at the adab of who was it? Look at the adab of Ayyub alayhi salam. The adab, the etiquette. He didn't even ask. He just said, oh Allah, some affliction has touched me, and you are the arhamur rahimin. In this severe situation, where for 7 or for 14 years, he was living away from society. All of his children, he had at least, I think it was 7 or 8. These are Israeliyah, we don't know for sure. He had so many children, all of them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused to die. So much wealth, family, power, all of it gone. Living alone like a leper in the valleys. And all he says, Inni massani ad-dur. Some problem have touched me. And anta arhamur rahimin. So Allah fastajabna lah. We responded to him. And we gave him all of his children back. In other words, he gave him more children. And doubled the amount. And all of his wealth and money came back to him. So much so that the Prophet ﷺ said that locusts of gold would fall upon him. Locusts of gold would fall upon him. And he would take them and benefit from them. In the end. Patience has its fruits. But look at his adab when he prayed to Allah. Getting his sympathy from Allah, not from mankind. So the height of Iman, the perfection of Iman, is not to complain to other people, to get their sympathy. Like we said, it's not haram, it's not shirk, you're not sinful. But it goes against the perfection, the kamal of one's Iman. You should only complain to Allah and get His sympathy and His rahmah. This too is of the etiquette of dua. Another etiquette of dua, and we have quoted the ayah before, is to pray quietly. Allah says, Allah says that أُدْعُ رَبَّكُمْ تَضَرُّعًا وَخُفْيًا. Call to Allah quietly, in a low voice, khufya, secretly. Don't call out loud. Now this is obviously the du'as we do for us. The du'as of the khutbah and the du'as of the prayer we do out loud. The du'a qunut and the witr we do out loud. But the du'as after the salah, for example, or any time of the day when we make a du'a to Allah for anything that we want, of the etiquettes of du'a is it be silently, quietly. We don't raise our voice doing it. Like Allah describes Zakaria as well, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. Zakaria made a khafiyya, a small, a slight, a private dua, a secret dua, a hidden dua. Likewise the Prophet ﷺ, once he was amongst the Sahaba, and they were yelling out to Allah. Yelling, Allahu Akbar, very loudly to themselves. I mean, this was not an occasion of battle. There are certain occasions, obviously, common sense, where you say it out loud when you're attacking the army or something. But on occasions where you're just by yourself,